Hey, I'm Sarah, and this is the Goddess in Training podcast. This isn't about being perfect or polished or having it all figured out. This is about what happens when you actually start listening to your body, your intuition, your patterns, your truth. I'm asking big questions and having real conversations, sometimes messy and sometimes magical, with people who've lived through it, grown through it, and still don't have all the answers. If you've ever doubted yourself, betrayed your gut, or wondered if you're the only one, you're not. Let's talk about it. Hey, welcome back to Goddess in Training. I'm your host, Sarah, and today I am offering a solo episode. Here's the story. There's a foundation being laid in Costa Rica this week. Concrete and rebar going into the ground on a piece of land I helped bring to life. A project that arrived to me in the way the best things do, fully, suddenly, like it was always meant to be mine. I poured 2 years into that vision, time, money, heart, a romance that felt like destiny, a business that felt like purpose. It was one of those rare things where the energy just moves, where you don't have to push because something larger is pulling. And then my body stopped me. I almost died. Necrotizing fasciitis, a flesh-eating bacterial infection that took me out of my life, out of my momentum, out of that project in ways I am still integrating. I survived, but the energy didn't come back the same way. The romance ended, and I've been holding this question ever since. Was any of it real? Was it divinely inspired, or was I just fooled? Did I waste 2 years and significant resources on something that was never truly mine? Today, I want to sit with that question the way I would with a client, because that's what this series is, me working with myself as my own transition doula. No tidy answers, just the honest work of being in the middle of a threshold. And here's what's been revealed to me lately, something that's shifting how I see all of it. Maybe Costa Rica was never the destination. Maybe it was the orienting. Let's dive into it. Hey, it's your host, Sarah here, and today I have something a little bit different. I am offering another solo episode. I have gotten a really positive response from you all when I just talked to you about things that are on my heart, and so that is exactly what I plan to do today. I will also say that I have started a new job, which is very exciting and has shifted my energy a little and has made it a little bit challenging to schedule podcast guests and get them out. But I am committed to keeping Goddess in Training out to you, my loyal audience. I am so grateful to you who have been sticking with me here every week for almost a year. It'll be a year in June. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been such a joy, and I've met so many amazing people. So if you or somebody you know has stories about listening to their intuition, has stories about personal transformation, please send them my way. I would love, love, love to talk to them. I will be back with the interview format either next week or the following week. But in the meantime, I really want to share with you something that has been sitting heavily on my heart and that I hope can give you a little bit of guidance if you are sitting with something kind of similar. I will say the overarching thing that I want to talk about today is what happens when you have something happen in your life that feels divinely inspired, but then it doesn't work out. What does that mean? What does that mean? And does it make you question your faith in your intuition? Does it question your faith in however you want to frame it, the universe or guidance from your spirit guides? Does it make you wonder if maybe they're not real, that maybe that information is fake in some way? So I want to talk a little bit about my Costa Rica project. This is something that I've mentioned on this podcast a few times and also in my writing on Substack. It is something that has been such an amazing adventure and joy in my life. So going back to how this started, in my previous job, I went to a conference in Costa Rica and ended up staying at this Airbnb because I registered late for the conference and all the hotels were full. And so there I was. And I met the very, very kind person who ran that bed and breakfast, Esteban. And I learned from him that he has had this dream for 20 years, for decades, to build a resort in Costa Rica, modeled after a resort that he built when he was very young on the Osa Peninsula. He'd been talking to people who'd been coming through the bed and breakfast for years about this dream. And he told me the same story. And being the intuitive, maybe impulsive person that I can be sometimes or am often, I said, "This is amazing. What's the next step?" And he said, "Well, I know this guy who has a perfect piece of land, and I just need to go down and find him. He doesn't have a phone. I haven't been there in 20 years. I need to find him and see if he'd be willing to talk with us and maybe partner in this project." I said, "Well, when is that going to happen? How are you going to do that?" And he's like, "Well, I've got the bed and breakfast that I'm running. I don't know. Having the time and the funds to get down there is difficult." And I said, "Well, I have vacation planned next week and I don't really have a solid plan. I was thinking about visiting my cousin in Colorado, or all of these different ideas had been floating around, but I never had a concrete plan. And my kids were going to be with their dad. So I said, what if I come back next week and we go together and find the guy?" He thought about it for a few minutes and said, "Yeah, sure." So I go back home and then I return to Costa Rica the next week, hop in the car with somebody who I had just met, who I also happen to have a romantic connection with as well, and which helped with that impulsivity aspect of my decision making. And we hop in the car and make the 7-hour drive. We stop and see some properties on the way, get down to the Osa Peninsula. To make a long story short, we find the guy right away. It just felt divinely inspired and magical. We go to the property with him and he says, "I've been waiting for you. I want a partner. This is what I want to do. I'm so excited." So that set forth this project that I've been working on for over 2 years now. So there's so many things in that story that just aligned in what seemed like a divine way. So many things that just couldn't be coincidences. Like, for instance, I just happened to be asked to go to this conference late. And that's how I ended up at the bed and breakfast, meeting Esteban, and then just magically having vacation time planned already, that I had the ability to hop back down there and go on this adventure. And that we found this guy who didn't even have a phone right away. And he said, "Yes, let's do this." And walking around that property, it just feels so incredibly magical. And I can see and feel what this can be in the future. And so I started traveling back to Costa Rica every 2 to 3 months. Again, looking back in retrospect, I don't even know how I had the vacation time, the financial ability to do this, but it just worked. It just worked and flowed in a way that I never could have imagined. We were moving the project forward very, very slowly. There are a lot of challenges in terms of it being really protected land and neighbors, and I won't get into all of the issues, but we just kept walking. And I kept walking and feeling like this is my path until last July, when I got a really bad infection and it turned into necrotizing fasciitis. And I was very close to sepsis and needed surgery to close up the wound, and I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. This is something that I was asking the universe, why me? What is the lesson here? Why am I being told that being here in this country has actually threatened my life? Does it mean that I'm not supposed to be doing this project? What does it mean about my romantic relationship, about the business, about what path I'm supposed to be on? I had all of these questions and I had so much time to sit and think about this. And I wrote about it in real time on my Substack if you're interested in checking that out. I had a whole series of conclusions that I came to. And maybe the final conclusion that I am at right now is that although my business partner, romantic partner, was there every single day with me at the hospital, I just wasn't supported in the way that I really needed to be supported. I needed love and affection in order to heal in the best way possible. And it wasn't something that he was capable of giving. And so that conclusion, I got it. I was like, okay, universe, I would not have shifted away from that romantic relationship if it hadn't been for that very dramatic kick in the ass, really. So that was a conclusion. But then I also said, I felt very strongly at that point that I was not meant to go back to Costa Rica until major progress had been made on the project. I had been devoting so much energy. Like I said, I was going there every 2 to 3 months. I had invested a lot of money into the project. And like I said, there were so many challenges and so many roadblocks. It just was not materializing into anything. And I knew that I needed to just cut off my energy to a great extent and not go back physically until I had a bungalow. And it made sense safety wise. The doctors say that it wasn't because I was bathing in the creek and living in a tent that caused the necrotizing fasciitis, but I just have a new level of concern when it comes to bacteria naturally because I literally almost died. And there's no way to prevent bug bites in the jungle. And that's essentially what happened. I got bitten by a bug. Bad bacteria got in, festered very quickly. And then it was this cascade of other effects that happened. So I said, I'm not going back until there's a bungalow. And so that was last July. And when I came home, I felt very strongly that I needed to end the romantic relationship. And so I made it very clear that I was just talking about business from that point forward. And also, it became very difficult to even talk about business. The positive energy that I had, the feeling that this was divinely inspired, to tell you the truth, guys, it dissolved to a great extent. And it was very challenging for me to wrap my head around, okay, I devoted 2 years of my life and so much of my energy, and I had so much excitement around this project. How can it just go away? What does it mean if it just goes away? So, as a transition doula, I like to try to give myself the same advice I would give one of my clients. And that being, it's hard to sit in a liminal period, in those periods where you don't really know what direction to go in, where you don't have those clear signs. And that's where I was sitting. And honestly, it's still where I'm sitting to a large extent. The bungalow, actually, this week, the foundation is being poured, and there is the semblance of a building getting put together, which is super exciting. But still, there are so many factors that could make this project not successful. And I'm okay with that. I feel at peace with it. I feel at peace with any possible outcome. I am not attached to any outcome. And I am still waiting and feeling and listening to my intuition about what is next with this. But even as I sit in this liminal period and I feel okay in this liminal period, there's still that question of why. Why was something so full of vibration and so full of life and excitement, and then it completely flip and then not be? And those were the feelings in my body. It drove me in such a great extent. I love talking about it. It was so life-giving to be there and to listen to the progress and to do whatever I could to help move this project forward. And then it just stopped. And so I come back to all the time, does that mean that I'm supposed to completely divert my energy somewhere else? If that's the case, then what was the purpose of the past couple of years? What role does this project play in my life overall? So I've been spending a lot of time meditating on these questions. And as life happens and as new opportunities emerge, I gain new perspective on what the answers to those questions might be. And I'm beginning to see what role it actually played. And it's not about the end result, as life rarely is about the end result. It was about creating a new version of myself, of Sarah. That what the project did is open up my field of vision about what was possible for myself in the future. That before going and jumping into this project with my entire heart and soul, I never could have told you, oh, yeah, I want to build a resort in Costa Rica. I didn't have the imagination to think of myself as somebody who could run a business like that, who could bring people into the jungle, who could help people have transformational experiences. And so, what the project did is it really widened my aperture in that way. It also gave me so much confidence about what kind of life I can create for myself. Really, it made me realize that I can do anything. I was not somebody who grew up with the adults around me telling me like, "Oh, you can do whatever you dream." My dreams were very, very limited because that was my life experience. This project, what the universe gave me in this project was an expanded imagination about what is possible. And because of that, I feel so at peace with whatever outcome happens because of it. I feel at peace with limiting my energetic output to that project right now. I feel at peace with my relationship with my business partners and with the conflict that's happening there. I feel detached from it, which then allows me to be open to possibilities in other parts of my life. One other piece of this, and this gets into a little bit of apocalyptic stuff, which I think a lot of us in the collective right now are feeling an urgency around safety and security. I think that in my conversations with a lot of people, they're feeling like the structures of this world as we know it are going to crumble. And what that means practically, um, we don't know. We don't know, but I think a lot of us feel that there is a need to have a plan B, a plan C, a way to possibly leave this country, a way to provide safety and security for our families, for our loved ones. And that is one thing that just kept rising to the surface of my consciousness when it came to the Costa Rica project, that perhaps if everything falls apart here in this country, I can throw my kids, throw the dogs, throw the cat into the car. I have, I'm a little bit of a prepper, only a tiny bit of a prepper because I don't have guns. I don't have the typical prepper package, but I do have some maps, physical maps, not Google Maps, that will get me down to Costa Rica if that's a possibility, even to get there when things fall apart. But so when I dig into the role that this project played in my consciousness and in my psyche, it really provided that plan B. It provided some safety and security that, okay, well, at least I'm doing something tangible that could result in safety and security if the worst case scenario happened. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this part of it because it is newly emerging, but what the universe seems to be giving to me now is exactly that, that safety, security, the plan B, the what to do in the worst case scenario. But instead of it being in the newborn phase or the gestation phase, like the Costa Rica project, It is fully formed, something that I can step into and contribute to in a way that I feel like I've been preparing for my entire life, if that makes any sense. And it feels like magic beyond the magic that happened when the Costa Rica project entered into my life. It feels even more divinely inspired, if that's even possible. It feels like I manifested this. And because of this thing that's entering this adult version of the Costa Rica project, I have not only a renewed sense of trust, faith, feeling of support from my spirit guides and from the universe. All of those feelings are at an amplified level right now. I'm kind of even in a state of disbelief that this has even possibly happened. And when then I look back at all of these pieces, and I've said this before, it feels like puzzle pieces snapping together. And that's the thing that I love when I am working with clients, is seeing those moments where they're like, oh, yeah, that thing that happened 10 years ago makes total sense now. My Costa Rica project is not necessarily about me moving to Costa Rica and running a resort. It may have only been to play the role of allowing me to imagine myself being in a role like that. So my main takeaway that I want to share with you is, even if you're in a moment where you're like, what the fuck, universe? Why? I expended all of this energy and it's not resulting in the thing that I had thought it would result in. I am a big believer that the energy that we are expending is never wasted. That sometimes that energy is tuition in a way, that you are putting coins into a bank. You're putting energy into the future version of yourself. So I'd love to hear from you. Do you have a Costa Rica? Are there things in your lives that moved you, fueled you, and then stopped and then quietly became something new? Those are the areas where we can find so much magic in this world. So I encourage you to keep listening inward, listen to those little nudges, clear out the noise of the shoulds and the emotions and all of these things that are illusions in this world, and really, really hone in on the yeses, the full-bodied yeses, the full-bodied no's. And even if those full-bodied yeses seem to result in something that does not come to fruition, it is not time wasted. Thank you so much for being here. Sending you so much love. Thank you for tuning in to Goddess in Training. I hope something in this episode stirred your knowing or softened your heart. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it, or leave a review or comment to help others find us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear more conversations like this, please consider supporting Goddess in Training on Patreon. For more tools and offerings to deepen your intuition practice, visit goddessintraining.online. You can also join the Scroll of Seshat on Substack for twice-weekly stories of how I followed my intuition. The music for Goddess in Training is Madre Ayahuasca by Arkawa, and you can find more of his music in the link to his website in the show notes. Remember, your intuition is not a mystery, it's a memory. Keep listening. Resplandor del fuego, estrellita, tabaco santo, fuerza de rapel, soplo de luz, soplo encantado, viajecito, bendición del cielo, fortaleza, tigrecito de